welcome to episode 58. This week on the show, Disney's offer to buy a major network, a possible Disney park in Saudi Arabia, lawsuit troubles with Redbox, and changes to the Magic Kingdom as well as an addition to Pandora. We're also joined by Rob from RobPlays on YouTube to discuss whether Epcot the City would work in today's day and age. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Rob from RobPlays, and you're listening to the One Little Spark podcast.
Broadcasting from the Dreamport. One Little Spark podcast.
Oh, hello there.
Do you want to connect with our show? Find us online at onelittlesparkpodcast.com.
Hello.
And on social media by searching for One Little Spark Podcast.
Epcot Center celebrates human achievements and innovation born from imagination. It is a showplace dedicated to entertain, we hope, with a purpose. Our goals for Epcot Center are quite clear. We want to first entertain, then inform and inspire all who come here, and above all, to instill in our guests a new sense of belief and pride in mankind's ability to shape a world that offers real hope to people everywhere in the world. Thank you.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Rich here, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Joey. How's it going, man?
It's going great, Rich.
Awesome. Well, guess what I did this week, Joey?
Let me see. Did it involve a kayak?
Possibly.
I have no idea what you did. What did you do?
I worked a lot, for one.
Yeah, you did do that.
We all know. But guess what else I did?
You really want me to guess?
No, because it would probably take forever.
I'm picturing a princess dress and maybe a poison apple. No?
Ooh.
Okay.
Kinky. I saw two films. I saw The Greatest Showman, which was awesome. I actually really liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's great. And did you take the family? Did you just go with friends?
I saw it here. So
I saw it all by myself.
all alone in a dark room. Actually, I was watching some stuff on YouTube, and there's a bunch of clips that show you like how it was made, and it's crazy to see some effects that were, to me, like unnecessary, but they're CGI.
Interesting.
Like snow. I'm like, they could have animated that. Or like anyway, there's a lot of weird stuff, like him walking down the path. Like they fully animated the whole thing. I'm like, besides him walking. I'm like, okay. It's crazy. So go on YouTube and check that out. I also saw Black Panther.
Ooh, what'd you think?
It was decent.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's
I
all right.
liked it, but to be honest, okay, let me ask you this. Okay, you liked it, but
I did.
But like, do you think that it lived up to the hype?
No.
And that's how I felt. I was watching and I was like, okay, it's good, but like, I don't know why it's a mega hit.
Like number 3 in the world, or at least in the United States, yeah.
Yeah, it's literally the third highest grossing film in North American history, bringing in over $665 million domestically and $1.3 billion internationally, and it's basically the only film behind Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and Avatar, which is insane that it made that much money. But to me, it's not like it was a bad movie, but I'm just like, yeah, but the third highest grossing of all time, and that's all adjusted with inflation.
Well, you have to think about this. We've had a real dearth of superhero movies lately. They're just, it's been kind of like a real dry spell, and it's nice that they finally came out with one that we can all kind of get behind. And I don't know if you know that I'm joking, but it's, And maybe, I blame Thor Ragnarok. It was so good that I think it got the momentum of that. And I will tell you this, I went in, as you know, with very low expectations. That's why probably I enjoyed the movie. And that's a trick I tend to try to do for most movies. I'm going to go see Ready Player One tomorrow night, and I've looked at the Rotten Tomatoes, I've looked at everything else that the reviews, and I've even seen a few of the spoilers. I watched a thing online with the 300 Easter eggs that are in.
Wow.
The new Rockstars. It's a great YouTube channel. They do these. They look at trailers usually, and we'll kind of pick apart the trailers and show you the Easter eggs. But they did all of Ready Player One, the entire movie, and they found over 300 Easter eggs, little hidden pop culture references. And it's like a 22-minute long video. I had to watch it in 2x speed just to get through it during my little break during the day. But it's pretty incredible. So I'm looking forward to seeing the movie, but I'm totally going in with low expectations, and that's kind of how I think I got through Black Panther, with really enjoying it.
I heard that Ready Player One was good, but here's the thing with Black Panther. I went in with high expectations, and I think I was let down by that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, well, it's super popular. A lot of people like it. I haven't heard anything bad, and I don't think it was bad. It's just that all the talk and the hype, like, things were predictable. But then again, they're all predictable, I think. I'm like...
It's pretty formulaic. What's really funny is... I'm going to send you a link, and if you want, we can post it online. But there is a show. I'm trying to think of who it was that puts it on, but it's these guys do pitch. Oh man, who does that? It's like a movie pitch for all these. They do Avengers, and they do all the different movies that Wonder Woman and everything. But they did one for Black Panther, and they were like, okay, so we hear you got a new script to pitch. And he's like, yeah, it's really great, you're gonna love it. It's Black Panther, he's a Marvel superhero, he's gonna really be great, but there's war rhinos in it. He's like, war rhinos? Like, yeah, like rhinoceroses, but made for war. I watched the pitch video, of course, after I've seen the movie, and I'm just like, yeah, this movie is completely ridiculous, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. It's funny.
Yeah. there was a lot of... Well, with with Marvel movies, though, I do suspend disbelief, like you mentioned. I think it was 2 episodes ago, that you're like, oh, he fell off a cliff, but he's alive.
Right. Oh, he's falling 400 feet. Oh, he'll be fine.
Off into the shadows where you would literally just, like, disintegrate hitting the bottom. But no. Found by a fisherman. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might not want to be listening to us right now.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't die. It's like, well, duh. Anyway, no, it was good. Wouldn't own it.
Wouldn't own it. I probably would. I'd probably watch it again. I don't know if it wouldn't be one of my favorites. It's probably mid-range for Marvel films for me. Out of the 18 they've made in the last 10 years. Yeah. And they've got like another 18 slated. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, here's our trajectory for the next 3 years. We're making 19 films. Just here. Bear with us. Spin-off of the spin-offs.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
I know. Every time Disney puts out that like timeline that's 5 years out, there's like 48 movies on there. I'm like, God. But, they own everything now. So it's like, here's all of our films. And there's like letters on letters and words covering other words. I'm like, yeah, they have a decent influx of money.
Yeah, they do.
It's like their film aspect of Disney is flourishing. So
the theme parks don't seem to be doing all that bad either. It'd be nice if they could pump some of that money into Epcot.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And speaking of Epcot, Rob from RobPlays on YouTube will be in the studio later on, and we get to interview him. Are you excited for that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I can't wait to talk to him. So he'll be in later on, and we have a lot of questions for him regarding Epcot and his thoughts and about one of his videos that he released. So stay tuned for that later on. One last thing before we get to the show is something that I always talk about on every episode. It's something I'm kind of disappointed this week, Joey. You know what it is?
No, tell me.
I didn't win the lottery. That's one thing. And 2,
I
didn't play the lottery. And 3,
gotta play to win.
I checked iTunes reviews, and we got none this week.
No reviews?
Disappointing.
Wah, wah, wah.
Sad panda.
Aw.
Nothing worse than a sad panda. So, if you haven't been over to iTunes to give us a review, even if you don't use iTunes, just go download it. There's probably an update anyway. You got to go on, find One Little Spark Podcast, and say how you feel about the show, which is amazing thoughts, obviously, because, we're great.
Yeah. Well, we could just get a Patreon page and ask for people's money, but, we're nice guys. All we really want from you is a nice review, just something honest and possibly with 5 stars attached to it.
Yeah, and with Joey's corporation and my post office money, we don't need your petty money.
That's right.
I like you're like gulping with a tear. You're like, yes, we do.
I need Disney travel money, but that's okay if you don't want to give it to me. We'll get a sponsor someday. Someday when we have more than 12 listeners, we'll get a sponsor and we'll be able to hang out together in Florida.
I'm still hoping for that lucky 13. Oh man.
Yeah. Share us with your friends, please. Please.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be neat to have like 13 or 14 listeners.
Oh man, you are a dreamer.
One day. All right, so head over to iTunes, leave us a review. It really does mean a lot. With all joking aside, it does mean a lot because it does push us up the charts, and it also brings the show out where people are like, let me search for Disney shows, and then it's like, oh, what is this one called? One Little Spark with 185 reviews, which we don't have, but one day, if you guys leave reviews, maybe we will.
That would be awesome.
And then other Disney listeners like you will hear the show and enjoy it just like you do. So thank you very much for all of you who have left one. It means a lot. Now let's get to the show.
Hello everyone, this is Kelly from Epic Disney Escape, and I'm here with Christina! Woohoo! The other half of my team, and we are actually here in the Skipper Canteen in Magic Kingdom.
On our bucket list.
Whoop, whoop. We're going to be sharing with you what we thought the most epic moments were from this trip that we're actually on right now.
Get it done.
Yeah, we got to get it out there. So, is it my turn to go first?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, so my most epic moment was we were hanging out with Kenny the Pirate, and we had just done an interview with him that's going to be going up on our blog. I had heard that Turkish Delight was available in the England at Epcot, so we had went into the British tea shop to get the Turkish Delight, and Kenny got one too, and we decided to try this. Now, the reason why we're trying Turkish Delight, if you don't know, in Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Edmund, who is the brother that goes with the White Witch lures him with Turkish Delight. So you think that this would be amazing. But it was
we got it on video.
One of the most disgusting things that we have ever tasted in our life.
It didn't even pull off a piece.
It was like a gummy candy that was covered in chocolate, and it was not good. The lady said that usually it's not covered in chocolate. Usually it has powder on the outside, but the chocolate didn't even make it taste good.
That'd be worse.
I do not suggest trying Turkish Delight unless you want to be grossed out, kind of like the Beverly. But yeah, it was gross. But it was super epic to do it with Kenny the Pirate and it be so gross.
Yeah. And he was a good sport. Thanks, Kenny. So for me, my favorite was actually, we had an amazing safari trip, which is actually kind of funny. It's not necessarily on our top rides. We like it. We do it usually once per trip. But we had a cast member, Ian, and he was absolutely hilarious. It was almost like we were on Jungle Cruise, but almost more so. He was thematic. We were driving down a road. He was just talking about that, and he was like, oh my gosh, where'd my road go? There was a road closed sign, and we actually ended up giving him a cast compliment on Twitter. Yeah, it was just, he was hilarious. We were sitting at the front, and I think everyone else, it was going over their heads, but we were cracking up. So I think he was just like, oh, these people are getting a kick out of it, and he kept making these funny noises and these funny references. It was really amazing.
It was.
It made our day and our trip.
I know. He was so amazing, so funny. And when we had left the compliment, somebody had replied being like, yeah, he's super fun to work fan, so I'm assuming that everybody else knows about Ian. Maybe we're late to the game, but we loved Ian. He was so great. All right, well, if you're looking for more epic experiences or epic magic, check out Epic Disney Escape on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And now, the latest news.
Extra, extra.
This week in the news, the Walt Disney Company has made an offer to buy Sky News in an effort to help Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox Incorporated win over the UK regulators who are reportedly concerned about potential regulatory issues. Disney has expressed interest in the acquisition of Sky News regardless of whether or not their takeover of most of Fox goes through, which it might not still. Who knows? They still have to talk about it. The LA Times reports that acquiring the 61% of Sky that Fox doesn't already own is part of Murdoch's larger plan to sell Fox's media businesses to Disney. It's also being reported that Comcast has made a higher bid to purchase Sky News. Disney has issued the following statement to support their interest. If the Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media, and Sports agrees and Fox acquires Sky, Disney would buy Sky News and agree to sustain the operating capital of Sky News and maintain its editorial independence. The divestment of Sky News to Disney is separate from and not conditional on Disney's acquisition of Fox. So, geez, Disney's just like, we're going to just, buy everything.
Yeah. They got the money. They might as well.
I mean, them and Apple, they're like, you can just buy whatever. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Well, Apple's waiting for Disney to buy everything up so then Apple can come in and just buy Disney.
Yeah, it's like that every year we see that same news story where it's like Disney in talks to sell to Apple. And we're like, yeah.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, if they have like $300 billion in an offshore bank, right?
I'm just going to buy France, okay? I'm tired of waiting for these people.
They're like the pavilion at Epcot? No, the actual country. Minus the terrorism.
We're just kicking everybody out.
According to the Wall Street Journal, officials from Saudi Arabia met with Disney on Tuesday, April 3rd in an attempt to potentially persuade Disney into building a theme park in their country, which would be made out of platinum. The bid for a new Disney
or
park.
Oil.
Oh, gross. Yeah. You're like in the Jungle Cruise, it's like a oil cruise.
Oh.
The bid
Can you imagine a Jungle Cruise and it's 127 degrees out because you're in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia?
Oh, yeah. Keep your turban on. It's for religious purposes. And try
It's
not
a dry heat.
to Here's your $17 water because we're in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yeah. In a platinum bottle.
A thermos. The bid for a new Disney theme park in Saudi Arabia seems extremely unlikely, and Disney, quote, has given no indication it will support the Saudi pitch. They're like, no. They're
like, yeah, Yemen's looking a little better right now. Why don't you come back to us in 6 weeks?
A spokesman for Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority. What? Okay.
We're going to probably offend some people with this story.
Probably. We have listeners all over the world. So
we love you guys. And we love Saudi Arabia and Yemen and the whole Middle East. You're awesome.
I love heat. A spokesperson for Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, whatever that means, said they've targeted Disney. Anyway.
That's a bad choice of words.
I know. Among other entertainment giants like Universal and Warner Brothers, Saudi Arabia is planning entertainment hubs throughout their country, including theme parks, resorts, live shows, and everything in between, Joey. Whatever that means.
It's all the stuff that goes between the other stuff.
Right. They're like the hidden things we haven't told you about.
Yeah, like the Hannah Montana secret experience. I don't know.
That's sticky.
Okay, we can edit that out.
Yeah.
That's as sticky as a Club Cool floor.
Gross. I don't know what's more gross. A Hannah Montana meet and greet or Club Cool's floor. The court battle over digital copy codes to Disney movies is nowhere near over as of yesterday in the courtroom as Redbox filed paperwork accusing Disney of unfair business practices. Disney filed a lawsuit against Redbox back late in 2017, claiming that the movie rental kiosk business was violating copyrights by reselling digital copy codes for their films. Redbox responded in January by suing Disney for copyright misuse and unfair competition. The most recent amended court filings are related to Disney's renewed effort to stop Redbox, which is set to go before the judge on June 4th of this year. Redbox has accused Disney of accelerating its efforts to stop Redbox from purchasing Disney movies, saying that, and this is pretty creepy, that Disney has even followed Redbox employees around retail stores, photographed them, and threatened them with federal prison time for buying Disney films. So just imagine that. This guy's like in a suit, earpiece, glasses, like 3 aisles down, peeking over shelves.
I don't know if I buy that. That sounds crazy.
That sounds... Because why wouldn't you file like some sort of stalker type deal?
Yeah, or like a restraining order or something.
Yeah.
And we all know Redbox buys their stuff off Amazon anyway.
It's a circle of life.
It's not like they're going down to Walmart at the local video store to buy their Disney
Jim,
movies.
the kiosk by Walgreens is low on films. People keep stealing them. You go down to Walmart and buy them at full price. Like, no, that's not even how it happens. Redbox also says that Disney has increased its efforts to stop the Redbox's purchases from a national big box retailer. The complaint suggests that Disney wants to eliminate low-cost options, quote, in order to force consumers to pay as much as possible for Disney's content, even after Disney has already been fully compensated when it first sells that content to a distributor or retailer. Finally, Redbox says that they look forward to advancing our case to an ultimate victory in court. I mean, who is Redbox? I know what Redbox is, but it's like they sound like they're gonna like destroy Disney, but they can't possibly win, right?
You can't possibly get away with this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. It seems pretty preposterous, but Redbox is valued at a couple $1 billion. Of course, Disney's valued at several dozen $1 billion. So, yeah, and at the end of the day, they just want people to rent movies from them, and they don't want Disney to make it difficult for them to do that. But with Disney streaming service coming out, eventually they're going to find some way to block anybody from having their IP unless you buy their service and stream it from there.
Oh, I saw there was some other story with Netflix, but I didn't even read it. I'm just like, you know what? It's all just like these threats going back and forth, just like this story, and eventually Disney will get what they want. They probably have just a team of lawyers in every aspect of everything. I mean, I got cease and desist twice based off the logo for one, the show, which is why it changed to the current logo, and then a second time from an event a few months ago that they just took down the logo altogether off the website. I'm like, okay, then I just won't put anything Disney related in a Disney related logo, which they have these people just scouring the internet for these things. Besides Etsy, for some reason, it's fine.
Yeah.
So anyway,
they can sell all they want over there somehow.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, you're petty. $6 for a headband. It's fine. So
You're not making money anyway.
yeah, you're just a poor shabby boy. All right, and then there's 2 more stories that I wanted to talk about, and they're pretty cool, actually. Well, one of them's really cool, and one's, I don't know. So the first one is, out of nowhere, is the suit in Pandora, which is like a mecha suit that a person, like an entertainer, will actually control. Did you see the video on that?
I saw the video, and I got a mission for you the next time you're down there to investigate this. Are the person's legs that you see?
Fake.
They're fake. I knew it. I had a feeling. I was watching it, and I'm thinking, I don't think those are his legs. It's kind of like with the Halloween costume where the guy's like riding a horse, but it's really his legs and the horse's legs, and the legs that look like his are fake.
Yeah. It's him running. Now, I'll actually be there the day this show is released in the morning, so I'll have to get back to you next episode.
Just take a knife with you and stab him in the knee and see if he screams in pain.
He's like, ouch, that hurts my thigh. Because it's real.
Why? Why would you do that? I'm sorry. I thought they were fake. I thought those were fake legs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. So
I've seen comments though online that people are like, it's already crowded enough. Why are you adding this thing that's going to add a crowd around you and block things up? I don't know. I think that's a little bit too much complaining because we have Toy Story Land opening soon, and who knows if this is long term. We have that I Can robot, I think, still in Tomorrowland. And they always have these things from time to time, like the Muppet Lab that's random in Epcot and things like this. So it's probably most likely going to be temporary, in my opinion.
yeah, they'll bring it out on occasion, and then they'll have it there when they, if crowds get light or something like that. But I think that those kinds of things are the experiential parts that we go home and talk about. I mean, I remember seeing Divine and just losing my stuff because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And, I had it was all I could do to get 2 cameras, one in each hand, and take as many pictures as I could because, we were slowing, but we weren't really going to stop because we were hurrying on our way to our first Fast Pass. But yeah, really, if I had been there by myself, I would have been like, screw the Fast Pass. I want to remember this experience because this is pretty unusual. So I think they'd be better off to do it, less often just so that it becomes something more special, but they're probably gonna put it out there a bunch right now just so that a bunch of people talk about it and take pictures and put it on Instagram. But I think it's kind of cool. I'd like to see it when I get there. Now, don't they have like a structure there? I haven't been to Pandora yet, so I gotta get my ticket and get out there. But there's isn't there one of those mechanized units like hanging out in front of one of the shops or something?
Yeah, right by the shop, the main one, and by the Pangu little stand where they have alcohol and all that. It's like that's the battle one, I believe. Is they had like the little explanation of what this is. The one that the guy's controlling is actually one that they would go and do research in, like on the land. But that other one was like from battle and stuff.
That explains why they don't look anything alike, and the other one is much larger. Yeah.
That's the explanation. They're like, this one is more low budget. And they're like, this one's for looking at plants. The other one is for murdering.
Well, I think there were talks even at one point where they were going to have characters dressed as avatars, actors on stilts inside avatar costumes with their faces painted to look like the characters from the movies, or even like in a full-on costume where you had a fully, mechanized face that, looked like one of the characters, like, the animatronics on the boat ride. But I think they're probably having some trouble with that, and this mechanized armor research thing is sort of the substitute for that.
Yeah, they're like, how can we scale this down in cost and effort? Okay, we'll just have some little actuators and stuff. It does look cool, though, and you're right about the experience, because I love stuff like that. Like going to Magic Kingdom and you see the banjo players in Frontierland and the ragtime piano player next to Casey's and the I Can robot. They don't have to do that stuff. They could just, you walk in, you do the attractions and the shows, and then you leave. But I love that extra thing, that little bit, like the streetmosphere people, like the towns people in Main Street and Hollywood Studios and at Animal Kingdom. They have little random performances and stuff. I love that stuff. So this is cool. Do I see it forever? No. Probably for a few months, maybe a year. Who knows? Hopefully longer, but, whatever.
You never know.
The next one is the purple wall enhancements. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I saw pictures.
It looks neat.
It's still purple.
But it looks like Spaceship Earth a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And it kind of has a playfulness to it. It doesn't look overly structured or overly, designed. And it, I think it's fine. I think it's gonna. Not like the purple wall ever lost its popularity. I think it was still, like, probably up there number one for all of this silly Disney walls for taking pictures in front of. But I think it's nice that they did something that gives it a little bit more texture, because I personally prefer to look at the other walls, so the Moss wall, the Harambe Market walls. They got a little bit more something to look at than just a color. But yeah,
I think the reason why these walls are so popular, and it's just so simple, it's like accidental, is basically they form a good abstract background for taking photos in front of, and the purple was a good background, because it brought out the subject, like, anyone standing in front of it. And also that area is really, really good lighting. There's like this weird direction from the sun that most of the day you get great lighting. You have a lot of reflection off of the hub area and the rest, that little front area of Tomorrowland. And that's why it's popular. Same thing with Spaceship Earth, where you have a lot of reflected light onto you, with the background there at the exit, and then the other
being
ones
in the shade. Yeah.
So it all works out, and it's accidental, I believe. I don't think Disney thought that people should take photos in front of these areas. It's just kind of a atmospheric thing they designed that turned into something like that. And now they're selling a bunch of shirts and hats and all this other stuff in the parks.
And they're going to put that in as a forethought for design elements when they're creating new things. I'm sure they're thinking of wall space in Galaxy's Edge, where we're going to end up.
Yeah, I bet you there's going to be a bunch of like the Star Wars-ized walls, because and then you're going to dress up and then go there, or bound or whatever, and then stand in front of those, and it would look cool. And the thing is stuff like that brings people to the park. So there's a lot of people that specifically go to these places to just take photos, and then you're there and you buy a shirt or a ice cream or food or lunch, or even just spend the day there, and then you build that great memory, and you come back or bring friends, like, oh, we got to take photos, you should come to Magic Kingdom, let's take pictures in front of the wall. And then it just brings more people to the park. So the simplest little things like a wall will bring guests in. It's crazy.
Yep. Give them a reason to take a picture and post it on Instagram. It's free marketing for them.
And if you heard last episode, there'll be a tour there. So
yeah, go back and listen to the last episode. That was a really interesting topic.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great show. So that's it for the main news. Let's get to a long lost segment that I used to love and now I have time for, called Rapid Fire News.
Rapid Fire News.
This week in Rapid Fire News, sadly, actor, comedian, and voiceover artist for Dreamfinder and the original Journey into Imagination attraction, Chuck McCann, sadly passed away on Sunday, April 8th. He was 83. McCann recorded many other famous voices, including the General Mills' I'm Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in 1962, as well as voice roles in DuckTales, The Powerpuff Girls, Adventure Time, The Garfield Show, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, G.I. Joe, and Huffalump in The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, among many others. Toy Story 4 has officially set an opening date of June 21st of 2019. According to the official Toy Story Facebook account, the highly anticipated film will premiere that day, and that's very exciting. Sadly, speaking of Toy Story, R. Lee Ermey, the voice of Sarge from the Toy Story movies and other films such as Full Metal Jacket, you'll probably know him, just go on YouTube and look him up. He has sadly passed away on April 15th due to complications from pneumonia. So thoughts go out to his family. Walt Disney World annual passes were previously only available for purchase at a ticket booth at the theme parks and the Transportation and Ticket Center. But to expedite the process, Walt Disney World annual passes can now be bought directly through the My Disney Experience app. Out-of-state residents can purchase either the Platinum Plus or the Platinum Pass via the app, and Florida residents can use the app to purchase the Platinum Plus Pass, the Platinum Pass, Gold Pass, Silver Pass, Weekday Select Pass, or the Epcot After 4 Pass. This new feature doesn't cut out visiting the ticket booths altogether, so in order to activate your annual pass, you'll still need to visit a ticket booth to show an ID, and Florida residents must show their proof of residency. Now, speaking of the My Disney Experience app, Disney has recently updated the app to no longer allow guests to change parties within a set Fast Pass selection. You may try to add guests to the selection, but the ability to change parties has been completely removed, which sucks because that's how a lot of scam stuff was able to be done. So if you're confused on what this means, so basically what you would do, what someone else would do, not me, of course, is say you had like 10 friends and they're not going to be going to the park that day. What you would do is set 3 fast passes for each of them and stagger the times, and you would set 3 for you, and what you would do to scam the system is change the party from what their selections are over to you after you've used your third, and you basically have fast passes all day without them even coming into the park or doing anything else. You just do everything from the app. Now, it's kind of a bummer because that's pretty much what I did, and I talked about it on Joey's show on the Disney Hack a long time ago, about a year ago I think it was. But the thing is this is kind of good news because, for one, it keeps everyone honest, and 2, it frees up a lot of fast passes from guests that weren't actually in the park. So that actually is a good thing. So I'm kind of excited about that, and I'll see more realistic openings for fast passes with that. Now, if you're interested in meeting some characters, this is kind of a bummer, but Baloo and King Louie from the Jungle Book are no longer available for meet and greet at Disney's Animal Kingdom as of recently on April 14th. Sadly, Flick will also be going away on April 22nd, which is this coming Sunday, Earth Day, so if you're visiting the park before then, make sure you meet him. Now, I'm not sure at all on who will be replacing him as far as characters go, so I'll keep you posted. Photos have surfaced online of the Ratatouille show building over at Epcot going vertical, as well as the first Skyliner pylons at the International Gateway. Speaking of that place, that's where one day I was on Facebook Live with a whole bunch of listeners listening and watching, and I pointed the camera at the wall, the construction wall, and then I'm like, oh, well, they're constructing the Skyliner there, yada yada. I continue through the boardwalk, continue on to walk to Hollywood Studios through the back cut-through. I get about halfway there, and I get stopped by Disney security, and I get questioned, and the guy's like, what are you doing? We found someone way back there. We got reports of someone filming backstage and this, and I was like, that wasn't me. I was just filming a fence. And they're like, well, we need all your information. But long story short, nothing happened, thankfully. And but then again, there's other photos from websites like showing full detail and photos from backstage, and it wasn't me, but just kind of weird that they pull me because I was like holding a camera, and they're like, you're recording backstage. Anyway, long story short, that's where it was. Anyway, over at Hollywood Studios, speaking of which, if you're excited to see The Incredibles 2, make sure you head over there to Hollywood Studios on May 18th to check out a preview of the film presented in 3D and added special effects, which is pretty cool whenever they do that. I kind of wish there were more theaters out there that did that. But this film will be released in actual theaters on June 15th. That's it for Rapid Fire News. This week in the show, Joey and I are welcoming someone we've wanted to have on for quite a while now, and his name is Rob from the RobPlays YouTube channel. How's it going, man?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. It's great having you on. I know so many people were excited to have you on the show and hear you and all of what you have to say. Now, a lot of the times on this show, we talk about our beloved Epcot and what we want to happen, what we wish would happen. But sadly, a lot of what we want to happen will probably never come to fruition. We just had an April Fool's show last week where we talked about how they're going to cancel that space-themed restaurant and rebuild scene for scene the original Horizons attraction. And a lot of people listen to half the episode and they're like, wait, this is a prank show, isn't it? And they got disappointed. So there's a lot of stuff that we talk about.
It was a little bit of a War of the Worlds situation. I thought maybe it was actually happening.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times we kind of do what a lot of us fans do and wish and dream, but we also talk about stuff that we want to talk to you about. So first things first is, how did you kind of get into YouTube?
Sure, it's like an interesting path because I feel like most people, you start as a hobby and then hopefully if it grows enough it becomes a career. But I was kind of like in a reverse situation where I worked for this company that made YouTube videos and I was like a producer for it, and I had a lot of fun. It was making video game videos and it was a grand old time, but as they sort of weaned off of it, I was like, I want to keep doing this. This is enjoyable. So I started my own channel, and that's kind of why the channel started as Rob Plays That Game, because I was still doing video game stuff. And obviously, 5 years ago, Minecraft was pretty much the game of games on YouTube. And there was a server out there that had recreated in full scale Walt Disney World. And growing up as a Disney fan since I was a little kid, I loved the server and I was running around there and just started to talk about like what I knew about Disney from everything I had read and learned over the years. And I found, oddly, that those did a lot better than any of my other video game videos. And so I just started to like more and more focus on Disney YouTube. And it was only about 2 years ago now that I made the decision to just like sort of be a hopefully master of one rather than jack of all trades. And I dropped all the video game stuff and changed it to Rob Plays and just sort of focused solely on Disney history.
Yeah, that's actually how I found your videos, because I was playing Minecraft a lot then, just kind of on off time and days off work just to relax. And then I started watching random videos of servers and found that server. And actually, I have played on it as well, and it's awesome. They did, like, Joey, you should see the stuff. You walk in an area and the BGM plays, or certain audio cues from the attractions play. And don't you have a portion on there that you...
They had tons of stuff. Like, I mean, they went as far as that they were custom programming plugins so that they can do like synchronized fireworks shows, like wishes and illuminations and all that stuff.
Wow.
The sort of work that they put into recreating that experience was like second to none. And it always blew my mind that Disney didn't, like, in some official capacity, try to like bring them on and make it legit, because I mean, as somebody who lives up in New York and doesn't get to go down all the time, like, that was an amazing way to just get that Disney feel, even if it was just, in the virtual world for a couple of hours.
Yeah, it was awesome. So that's how I got into your videos. And then whenever you transitioned into making all the Disney ones, I'm like, this guy has like the same theories and ideas that we have. And then, I started the podcast about 1.5 years ago, and Joey joined a couple months ago. So it's been a lot of fun, but every time we talk about stuff, we kind of refer back to some of your videos, and we're like, yeah, Rob talked about that before. So.
And there are a lot of opinions there that I've found a lot of Disney fans do not agree with me on, but that's sort of the fun of, I guess, the community is so many people have so many different viewpoints on pretty much everything.
We noticed. We definitely noticed, because people were messaging me like, please tell me this purple wall thing is not true, and please tell me like that, and this can't be happening, or do you have any inside information, because we work on this show, so they're like, tell me what you know. And I'm like, gosh, I feel like that hostage.
Yeah, Rich has the fortunate advantage of actually living in Central Florida, not far from Disney World, so he can get some information from time to time that you and I probably, well, I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, Rob, but I just don't have that insider edge like Rich does, and so it's kind of nice to lean on him sometimes and be like, hey, figure out what's going on with that so we can have an answer for folks. Yeah.
I'm like, let me just drive over and check it out then. So now I live about an hour away, so it is nice and convenient. So transitioning from the YouTube stuff, are you? How did you get into your podcast?
So that was almost like an extension of the YouTube stuff, really. I mean, it was my best friend Christine. She's also a big Disney fan. I had for a couple of years been pestering her to like start a channel because she has, like many of us, so much to say on the subject. And she was kind of watching the channel and invested in it, and she would eventually be on the channel for videos. But a lot of the times, the videos ended up just being her and I sort of standing next to each other and just talking. And as a video first person, it kind of just like bugged me because like I'm always thinking of like, well, what should the viewer be seeing next? What is the value of the visual there? And so I realized, really it was just our conversations that were of value in those videos. So it would probably just work better as a podcast. And from an editor perspective, it ended up being less work for me because then I didn't have to worry about the video there. So it really kind of was a combination of that and just her and I wanting to just chat Disney every week and talk about what was going on and what we thought. And it just sort of took off from there. We honestly started it as this thing of like, let's try it for a couple of weeks, see if we're into it and we want to keep doing it. And now we're like, a couple of months out from hitting episode 100.
Wow, that's awesome. Man, it's
a lot of fun.
That's kind of how this show got started. My friend and I were diehard Disney fans there all the time, and she's like, we should make a YouTube channel. I'm like, but there's already
very similar.
Yeah, there's a lot of like similar video YouTubers out there, and I'm like, there's no way that I'd have the quality or time to put in like they do. So I'm like, what about a podcast? And she's like, yeah, but anyway, so the podcast won, and we just never really got around to doing the YouTube videos. Here and there, we'll do like reviews and throw them on there, but it's definitely nowhere near the caliber. So what kind of stuff do you have in the future planned? Like, do you have books or anything to change kind of what you're doing?
I'm excited about this. Okay, I'll say this. I have not publicly talked about this at all, so this is the first time I'm mentioning it. I've considered in the past doing things like books, and I'm not ruling it out, but like since I'm writing a script every week for the video, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do even more writing. But I'm working on another podcast that I'm hoping to launch sometime either in the middle or towards the end of this summer. And I can't go fully into like what it is, but I will say it's more of a creative Disney podcast. It isn't news. It isn't, opinion pieces. It's more of a fictionalized podcast. And it is kind of going to combine a love of the Disney parks and a love of games, particularly tabletop games. So
nice.
I don't have a name for it yet or any other real details, but I've been working on it for like the past year or so, and I'm hoping that it's finally ready to kick off come this summer.
That's awesome. What do you think, Joey?
It's kind of like I'm sitting here listening to two twin brothers who were separated at birth. Because, Rich is, his show, his co-host originally was like, let's do a video and have a YouTube channel. He's like, no. So, he went the other direction of podcast. You started with video, ended up with a video and a podcast. You're doing a new podcast that's, very creative, even though it ties Disney in. And Rich has actually been working on one for some time now that it literally take the parks within the lands within Disney World and convert them into fictionalized real places with real characters. So you take the characters from Main Street and then tell a story about them, where President Taft is coming to town and on a train, and all the townsfolk on Main Street are excited that he's coming, and they're going to tell a story around all that, and then kind of do like a listener's theater, right? And so it's so crazy how close but how different you guys are. It's just if you didn't sound different, I wouldn't know that I was actually talking to two different people. And I'm just excited that I get to be here and talk to you guys because I'm geeking out on this stuff.
I mean, I'll just say you technically haven't seen us both in the same place at the same time, so you can't be 100% sure.
We're the same person, probably.
I've never seen either of you in the room with Batman either, so I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, you should be on that regard.
God. All right.
I should probably use a Disney IP or something. I haven't seen you in the same room with Condor Man, so I'm a little You know?
Joey.
Sorry, I had to go as obscure as I could possibly think.
I was just saying, I don't think anybody's seen Condor Man,
No.
Man in quite a while. So,
Well, Rob, we wanted to talk about a video that you published just about a year ago called "Would Epcot Have Worked?" And ever since I saw this, we have talked about it on the show, and we went back and rewatched it recently, and you came to the conclusion in your video that you don't think that it would work. But do you think, with incredible things happening with our life, like SpaceX landing those, the rockets on the floating barges, which to me was like, it blew my mind. I'm like, God, fantastic. Insane.
That video of the two landing at once, my buddy and I were watching at the same time. We were so excited. It's like seeing the future come to reality.
Yeah, we watched it. Actually, I watched it live launch out my backyard. That's how close I am to the coast. But with Elon Musk, this guy, he's just like sitting back in his chair, feet on the table, smiling, like, look what I'm doing. Look what we're doing. And we always talked about this. I know a couple shows back, Joey, we talked about if Elon Musk was leading the ship, would that city of the future work with that kind of mind, which is kind of the same creative, like, watch what I can do mentality, but he has a lot of money compared to Disney back in the day. So do you think that Elon Musk or someone like him are equivalent with that creative mind and, power and money? Would something like that work, even though we have things like, the internet and all that?
I think it's possible. And the thing with that video that I posted was, and it's with every video, is the second you put it out there, all it takes is to be seen by like, a couple of thousand people for like every crack in your theory to be like found and pointed out. And one of the things I never really highlighted in that video, but I wish I had in retrospect, is like I was kind of looking at it in a very literal sense. We were taking what we had known about Walt's vision for Epcot and assuming that was going to be like sort of the rigid plan for what that Epcot was going to be. And so, a lot of what I had heard back on that video was like, well, if this was slightly different, this might have worked, or if that was slightly different, it might have worked. And I agree, had there been more flexibility in how it evolved and was eventually made, there might have been a chance for it. But with that video, I was just sort of looking at it solely as, does this original vision, would that have stood up to the test of time? And, I still think it wouldn't have, but I do think if, like, say, an Elon Musk were to approach the concept, and in a weird way, he kind of is, right? His plan in long term is to colonize Mars. And so it won't be the same type of city of the future where you get tourists coming over for, a Disney vacation through a monorail. But, he wants to build like that next settlement, and that's where I think you'd see a lot of these little changes. Like, I imagine his city of the future wouldn't be a matter of keeping all of the residences updated with the latest technology. It'd be more about the sort of big picture evolving of what a city would look like. So I definitely think that possibility would be there. And when it comes to Musk, it's like, every time he pitches something, you go like, well, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if it's possible, but like everything he says he wants to do so far, he's doing it. So, I think he'd be able to do it.
Yeah, they landed rockets parallel, simultaneously. I mean, on the launch pad. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I want to touch on what you just said, Rob, and that is that when I think about the 1966 film and that map that he's showing that, goes 25 feet up the wall, and he's talking about here's the airport, here's where the monorail is going to take him to the industrial complex, and then the City of Tomorrow, and then we're going to have this theme park at the top that's going to kind of mirror Disneyland, but it'd be different because it's a different place and a different time. We've learned more since we opened that. I think of that as like that. I go back even further. I think of the Buena Vista, lot that they had across the street from the studio, where they had this long cigar-shaped theme park, right? That he originally mapped out. And we talk about Epcot, and would it be feasible? I think that if Walt had lived another 25 years, certainly he would have built it. But things like how we would have, transported ourselves, like the People Mover is such a great idea, and we all love it. But he might have looked at that and said, maybe gondolas are cheaper, right? And like they're doing now, they're going, we can't take the monorail and send it out to Animal Kingdom, but monorails are pretty cheap. They're about a tenth the cost, and a tenth of the infrastructure, probably even less than that in terms of you just build one pole and then you string a wire between them. The stations are a little costly, but you're going to need stations for monorails and People Movers anyway. So, he probably would have, innovated that stuff, decades before we've done it. and it would have been very exciting to see. And what the last thing I want to say on what you had just said was with Musk colonizing Mars, or with the plan to go and send humans there, and to, when you look at his film where he kind of lays this all out, there's this animation where you see, one small settlement, and we add on to it, and we add on more, and we add on more, and you think about, the technologies. We know that after they've been there 8 or 10 years, their iPhones aren't going to work anymore, and the computers are going to be 8 and 10 years old, so they're going to need to replace all that stuff. And I think that had Walt lived long enough, things like the difficulties in upgrading technologies, all those problems would have been solved. But I'm excited now that somebody like Musk has come along, and he's probably going to have people on his team that are going to figure out solutions to those problems. And I think that the colonization of Mars is sort of like our second chance at saying, here's what Epcot could have been, and how cool is it that the people that live there are having to figure out, how do we work these different technologies, these different skill sets, these different, cultural things, because we're going to have Japanese teams and American teams and Chinese teams and Indian teams and all meshing together like Walt probably would have wanted, 40 years ago, of course, here in Florida. But it's pretty exciting. It's an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing, in our lifetime, what kind of comes of all that.
Absolutely. And I think, to what you're saying there, the very fact that a Mars colony would be sort of, by its definition, it's on Mars, it's pulling you as far away from all of the other modern cities that we have today. I think it almost puts it in its own little bubble, figuratively, or maybe even literally, depending on the design. And it gives you that same end goal that we were seeing with Epcot, which is this idea of, pre-planned from the start and meant to be this example of what, that futuristic society could look like.
Gosh, it's just crazy to think that this could happen in our life. Like, just not even too long ago, we were sitting there thinking about, oh, the internet's pretty neat. We can go on websites. And now we have rockets, possibly.
Oh, I could go on Minecraft, and I could be like at Disney World.
I keep telling my girlfriend I want to retire to Mars, and she thinks I'm joking, but I don't think she realizes how little I'm joking whenever I say something like that. Like, I'll be really disappointed if I get to retirement age and we don't have people on Mars by then.
Yeah, because we were just talking about how they're trying to send them here in, the next 10 years, right? So... yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of.
NASA's planning to send them in 10 years. I think Musk is trying to beat NASA to it. My daughter is 10 right now, and I'm really pouring on hard on the STEM education so that she decides if she wants to be an engineer, she might be part of that team and get to do something like that, because I think that would be pretty remarkable.
Those guys are all geniuses to me. So in the video, though, you did make a point that the World's Fair and the City of the Future concept with constantly updating appliances would have cost a fortune, and with today's day and age, we have the internet to show products off for a fraction of the cost, and it makes no real sense. So with that theory, is keeping the original concept of Epcot, the theme park, kind of dead now, because in that same theory, we also have the internet to show off in stuff that you'd show off in inventions with like robotics and the House of the Future, even though that stuff's gone now. But the purpose of the original theme park is kind of no more, really, because we have the internet and people talk in seconds on the phone, on their cell phone, and all that. So having a theme park to show things off like that and showcase this and that is kind of pointless. So
I mean, I think it's a little bit yes, a little bit no, right? The biggest one we've seen, I think, with the internet is not just that the technology allows us to learn about these products from home, but it's these companies have sort of taken ownership of that whole experience. Right now, when you want to know what the newest iPhone is going to be like, it's because you're tuning into Apple's keynote that they're streaming live. Or, right now we've got a video game convention going on where all these companies are showing off their own video games. And so it kind of went, and this is almost like a dual thing beyond just Epcot. You just have the World's Fair in general has sort of lost a little bit of relevancy because of that. Mm-hmm. People are, competing so much for attention because there are so many options out there that everybody just wants to make their own event out of something rather than just being part of a larger event. But that said, I still think there are some elements that would be fitting towards a park like Epcot. And I think the biggest one is like virtual reality, because that's something that, you can see a video of a VR game online, but it is not comparable to actually putting on a headset and trying it out yourself. And, not to synergize with Ready Player One, which just recently came out. But I really do think this is a direction that we're going to see develop even more in the future. And I think more and more it's going to become this experience you have to have for yourself for you to truly understand what it's like. So I think in with stuff like that, that's where you're going to want to have like a physical location where you can show up and you can actually try it out. Now, I don't know if, it's still going to render Epcot kind of useless in that regards, because maybe it'll just be, showcased in stores across the country. But, I think that at least leaves room. My dream with Epcot was, at the very least, whatever it turns into, I wish there was one building that was like Innoventions 2.0 and still kept that core theme of the original Epcot.
Something that makes me kind of sad internally every time I hear it is someone will post online or Twitter or something, and they're like, I became an artist because of one trip I took to Epcot when I was younger, or I'm an engineer now literally because I went to Epcot and it changed the rest of the course of my life. And I'm like, gosh, it's kind of like what you're saying is, now that you can't really physically go and see it, you just kind of watch videos, you're not really getting the same experience.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's a great point, because it's supposed to inspire us, right? Yes, it's supposed to entertain us, but it's also supposed to inspire us. And I think that Walt would have really been, if he could hear this conversation, he'd be excited to hear that, what you just said, Rich, about people being able to be inspired to do something with their life because they went to one of his theme parks, even if that's eventually what it became. And it's pretty incredible that now, kids are getting VR headsets for Christmas, and perhaps those are the things that are inspiring. In fact, one of the first videos they're downloading, right, is the roller coaster VR experience, because they can do it Christmas morning right away instead of waiting for whenever mom and dad are planning that next trip to the theme park.
I think there's one element that gets lost with it, though, and I was only just thinking of this as you were talking about it, but like I think that inspiration not only comes from the experience itself, but almost like the shared experience, right? Like when I think back to the moments that I find the most emotionally moving when it comes to any sort of like conference or show or anything like that, is hearing like a crowd go wild about whether it's a new product or a new movie or something. Seeing other people get excited almost gets me excited for something, and you lose that a little bit if you're just like sitting at home watching an Apple keynote alone. Like, that's I'd imagine part of why they like fill those spaces with so many employees or press and stuff like that. And so I think the important part of something like VR being that next frontier of experiencing new things is to try and make it as shared as possible, because I think that's going to help keep people inspired when it comes to like new creations.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of all that, when I think that VR, I know I've heard Iger say that they're going to steer away from that because all the other theme parks like Six Flags and all the others are really kind of pouring a lot of energy into that. And he's trying to, how do we get past that? How do we get to the next thing? I would love to see them do something with augmented reality where I'm actually at Epcot, but I'm wearing something that makes it look like Dumbo's flying over my head, or Aladdin and Jasmine are on a carpet, or there's Baymax flying over, something that I'm there, so I get to participate with everyone else. I get to hear the oohs and ahs, but at the same time, I'm able to participate in something that just physically isn't possible. And I think that augmented reality along with VR would be able to help that tremendously.
That reminds me of something I saw recently that got, I think it was with the app that got canceled, and it was basically like an augmented reality animation that would go on your phone or through the app, I guess, and they canceled it. I don't exactly remember. I think it was through Magic Bands or something. They had cards with the little codes on it. But who knows, maybe that's around the corner. I know here and there we read about these patents that come out, like the room you walk through and it charges your phone just by walking through, and these weird ride system ideas that we see the prints for and all that. So who knows if that's coming in the future.
I want that.
My biggest hope is whoever takes over after Iger is a little bit more tech focused and like especially video game focused. I feel like that's a space they could just totally dominate if they just dedicate themselves to it.
Yes, because
well, it's like what you said, Rob. They need a leader who understands that to drive it, because I don't think that Iger understands it, so he can't drive it, right?
He's the TV guy.
And I think we're good on the IP acquisitions now. I think we're pretty okay.
Exactly.
We have everyone, so now it's time to focus back onto the parks, I think. We're good. So with the idea of the original Epcot and the theme park basically being gone forever, now where do you see the theme park of Epcot going with all these IPs like Guardians, which does look awesome, and Ratatouille and possibly Coco being added to the Mexico Pavilion, things like that? Where do you kind of see the theme park in 5 to 10 years?
I feel like there's two visions. Like there's the theme park I wish it kind of would turn into, and then there's the
Yes.
theme park I'm pretty sure it's going to turn into. And the one I'm pretty sure it's going to turn into is we're going to see IP rides, and it's going to be, almost, maybe it'll maintain that futuristic versus international themes of the two lands within it. But I think beyond that, it's just kind of going to become like any other theme park. And what I always found interesting with that is, obviously a lot of fans lament the idea that it's going to go in this direction, and for good reason. Like, you've got fond memories, and it's not like the idea of the original Epcot was a bad idea. That's not why they're like steering away from it. But I think it's like this sort of unfortunate circumstance of just like the changing times with technology. Going back to the internet, if a company wants to advertise themselves, they've got so many outlets to do it today that I feel like ride sponsorships just aren't really the best use of money anymore for it. And we're seeing that. We're seeing less attractions sponsored by outward corporations, and we're seeing more Disney owned and operated, completely designed attractions. And at the end of the day, like I said in one of my videos when I was talking about what everybody's calling Epcot, is like, when Disney's footing the total bill now, their bottom line is to push their own brands, and that's going to be their IPs, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars or Pixar. And so that's kind of why we're seeing it go in that direction.
Rob, do you see this as the end of non-IP attractions like Spaceship Earth or, Pirates of the Caribbean before the movies, where they, Figment, for example? Do you think that we're not going to see any more of those things show up?
I hope not. I'm really hoping that, and again, it's a lot of hoping, but I'm hoping whoever steps in after Iger, because this is the thing I've noticed, and I always ask this whenever the topic comes up, because I'm always thinking maybe there's one ride I'm missing, but I'm pretty sure as far as the U.S. parks go, from the day Iger took over, there hasn't been one original attraction. Everything's been IP based or based on, like a movie or something that they've acquired. The only exception being Expedition Everest, which was greenlit under Eisner and then finished under Iger. And so, like, I'm assuming there's this mandate of IP only, but I'm hoping that whoever comes in recognizes that there's value, long-term value, in just having a balance there. Like, you can have your Pixar rides and your Marvel rides, but like, look at how big the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise was, and that wouldn't have existed without the ride. So there's value in these original attractions, and I just hope they
it's
see
like
that.
billions of dollars in that franchise. I think the only one that I could think of, and I don't exactly remember when Iger took over, but Soarin', right? Or was that before?
I think that might have been
That was a California Adventure original.
Oh, okay.
So it was
way before. Okay.
Yeah. The 98, 90,
Soarin'?
2000, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, yeah, you're right though. There's nothing in, but I love the originals. Almost, well, I don't know about more, but Test Track was great. And I mean, that's from the 90s, but that's still a great ride, and that's popular. Soarin's popular, and that's an original concept.
see how he can't get out of Epcot.
I
Can you
can't.
see that, Rob? Yeah.
Well,
I'm the
Small
same
World
way.
is great
Small World
sometimes.
is great if you actually think about the history and what it really means. And Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain,
Haunted Mansion.
yeah, all the classics.
Although they did make a movie out of that, but nobody talks about it
No.
anymore.
And
Yeah,
Except maybe Rob on his channel.
speaking of,
and not in like the genuine way.
and then there's Splash Mountain.
Yeah, well, and Splash, based on a movie, and that was Eisner, So, Rob, I used to work at Disneyland, and I think you hit the nail on the head with something. When I was there, we'd have a new boss come in, and they would tell us to change things because, he had to prove himself to his bosses. And 6 months later, he'd be either promoted out, or he'd be fired, or he'd quit and go work for Viacom or some other big media company. And then the new boss would come in, and he'd have to impress the bosses, so he'd change everything again. Only what he didn't realize was he was changing it exactly back to how we did it 6 months before. And I think that when Iger finally does move on and there's a change up in leadership at both at the theme park level as well as the corporate side of things, I think we're going to see the end of maybe some great, some of the movie stuff that's going on. It's going to change. It has to, I think, as our culture continues to change. But and who knows, we might get a leader who's going to be more technologically savvy, who might be interested in talking to Imagineers about some of these original ideas. But the cycle might go back around where you might see some Bob Gurrs and some Raleigh Crumps coming into Imagineering who's saying, look, I've got some original ideas that we're not going to make movies about ever, but I think people are going to be totally thrilled by them, even though it's just a boat ride.
Yeah, I'm hoping two key things happen at the same time. I'm hoping one is towards the end of like Iger's tenure, we start to see like the sort of fervor of Marvel and Star Wars slow down a little bit. I don't obviously ever want to see them fail, and I don't think they will in the long term, but I think right now what we're seeing is a Disney company that is driven by the film industry, right? That is sort of the primary, motivation of everything that they're doing there. And then the theme parks kind of come secondary. But, I'm really invested in the Star Wars hotel. I think if it is half of what it promises to be, we're not just looking at something that's going to be wildly successful. I think this could be like the next evolution of what a vacation is. And I think this could be like, I've gone as far as to say, I don't know if we'd ever see a fifth gate at Disney World. I think we'd just start to see more of these hotels. And so if both of these happen at the same time, maybe one day we'll see a Disney that's more theme park driven, as the first and foremost motivator. And then from that, you get your more original ideas that then the movies follow and the TV follows and stuff like that.
That'd be great. I hope so. It's not that I hate what they're making. It's just kind of like I see Toy Story Land and I'm like, And Star Wars Land is Galaxy's Edge is going to be awesome, but I want something that I'm kind of unfamiliar with discovering. That's why I kind of liked Pandora a lot, because even though I saw the film, it was like a whole new concept that, floating mountain, that's pretty cool, and there's a lot to see. And I'm excited for you to go there, Joey, because if you go there with the open mind of just forget about what you've heard about the Navi River adventure, but actually go and look at all the little details of what they created. That to me is fun, is exploring this land in this park for what it is, and not like, oh look, there's Rocket the raccoon outside of this thing making jokes, and you go in and it's a roller coaster and they
Baby
make little
Groot.
funny things with 80s music. I don't know, like it'll be awesome.
Rich,
coaster, but
I think that Avatar fans are kind of like Trump fans. There's a lot of people out there who are like secretly love the film, but are just not going to tell you because they're afraid you're going to make fun of them for liking blue people. I am an unabashed Avatar fan. When I saw it in the theater, I saw it in IMAX, I saw it in 3D, and I'll be honest, I'm a huge James Cameron fan, and I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the trailers. I didn't know anything about it, and I sat down, and once the theater went dark, I didn't move for 3 hours. I went and saw it again in the theater at least 2 more times. I got the video. I've probably seen the movie 20 times since, in the last decade since it came out. I tell my friends to watch it, and of course they make fun of me because I like blue people. But not a day goes by I don't think about going to Pandora, in Florida. And I haven't been there because the last time I was there, as you know, was 12 months ago. And so it's opened, and it's good because next time I go, maybe the crowds will be slightly less than they have been. But yeah, I'm excited about all that stuff, and I'm excited about the Star Wars hotel, and it would be great if they had an Avatar-themed hotel that completely immersed you in this experience, or even a DuckTales hotel where I could take my kids and they can hang out with, Webby and the boys and go on adventures or whatever. I think that would be fantastic, and so I agree with you, Rob. I think that that is the future, and Rich, you're going to be the first person to find out as soon as I'm coming back to Florida, so that we can go grab a drink at the Abracadabra bar and head on over to Epcot and circle the World Showcase.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till you come back, because you haven't been here since quite a few things have been opened, or at least by the time you come again, whenever that'll be.
I'm working on it, man. Working on it. We might have to go to Disneyland first. Rob, what do you think about Disneyland?
Oh, I love it. I went for the first time about 3 years ago, and when I went, I was like, to me, I was like, all right, well, I'm getting it over with. Like, I'm a Disney fan. I need to go to Disneyland at some point. This is just sort of like, just the journey that you have to take. And but I remember growing up hearing the facts of like how Disneyland could fit inside the parking lot for, you know, the ticket and transportation center, and I was like, it's so small, it must feel so it must lack that immersive quality that Disney World has that makes you feel like you're leaving the real world. And when I got there, I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, it is small, everything is very compact, but it still has that vibe of like you're leaving, you know, California and you're in this great magical land. And they really make the best use of the space they have. I'll say that. And, you know, it was a little biased of an experience because I went during the 60th anniversary, so I imagine they had like a really nice budget to like freshen everything up. But everything from the parades to the fireworks to just, you know, the ride experiences were just so great. I was really surprised at how much I loved it. And in fact, I'm going back in October for a quick trip, and it's just, yeah.
That's awesome.
And my hot take is I actually love Mission Breakout a little bit more than Tower of Terror, which a lot of people on the internet don't like me saying, but it really is a fun experience.
Yeah, but they've done those surveys, and that's the top rated attraction on the entire property still. It's really popular, and I don't think I've heard any. It's those fanboys that like arguing, I think, but I think that
you're talking to two fanboys now.
I think everyone really does like it a lot, and they're like, yeah, you could just go ride Tower of Terror over in Florida.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Well, and if you're going in October, you're going to be able to experience both of the different versions that they're going to have for the Halloween.
I know. I'm lucking out because I'm going like right as it makes the switches over. Like, so I'm going to get to see both, like one on one day, one on the other. That's another thing they do really great over there is their like sort of seasonal overlays are just like really cool. And it really is, it feels like a place where they know they can't really expand outward too much. So they just have to really like knock it out of the park with what they've got in there. Yeah. Which is why I was so confused at the Bugs Life Land, but now I guess we have an answer to what we're going to do with that. So.
Yeah, it's getting raised to the ground.
They've
already closed. Yeah, they've already closed the Bugs. It's tough to be a bug, so I'm very happy about that because that's probably my least favorite attraction.
You want to tell Rob why?
The first time I went to see it, I was sitting. Somehow, the way I was sitting when the bees come out and sting people at the end, I got this plastic blunt bee stinger right in my spine, and it just it wrecked my whole day. And I'm like, who thought that was a good idea? And you know what? I've seen the show since. I kid you not. I sit on the edge of the seat and I wear a backpack.
Oh, wow. It always reminds me of, you remember Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, where they had the little tubes that would flail for the mice running tails, through the audience? Oh, I love that.
If you can actually go watch a 2D version of it, I'm like, this is still good and relevant to the pavilion at Epcot. So I don't know why they don't just get rid of the Pixar thing and bring it back. It was still good.
Yep.
So, Rob, where can everyone find you? I know you're pretty famous on YouTube for Disney videos, but where can people find you on social media?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at RobPlays and Instagram at RobPlaysThatGame. And actually, I think that covers it.
You're like, and done.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, two
well,
is
if
enough.
They go to robplays.com, you've got all the links there right at the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you guys haven't seen any of his videos and you, of course, listen to the show, you would probably love his videos because I love them and we have a lot of the same viewpoints and ideas. And every time I watch one of your videos, I'm like, yes, exactly, or something. And I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, hell yeah, this is exactly how I feel on a lot of this stuff. Or like I always wanted to talk to you about certain things, and I'm like, yes, he thinks the same way. He's great. So,
yeah.
My personal policy is like I'll never make up an opinion just for the views, but I also will never shy away from the unpopular ones. And recently with the Tower of Terror opinions, that has proven that they're definitely unpopular with some people.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, 19,000 views. That's great.
Yeah, so
60,000 subscribers. That's great, Rob.
I'm hoping this is a big year. And then I'll just say that I'm hoping this is a big year. And if you keep an eye out on the channel, end of the summer, I'm hoping to announce this new project, which I'm hoping will be even bigger than the channel itself.
All right, can't wait to see that. I know there's a lot of stuff in the Disney World that's coming as well, so you have a lot to cover there too.
Yeah, definitely consider coming back on when you're ready to launch that so we can talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always down to talk, especially if you guys are talking a lot of Epcot. I love talking about
Noted,
Epcot, so.
because that's what we talk about a lot. Well, Rob, thanks a lot again for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
That's it for this episode. Thanks to Michael Pitcher for the show music by the Disney Company and other copyright holders. To find us on social media, search for One Little Spark Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For show notes, pictures, and more, check out onelittlesparkpodcast.com. Thank you again to Rob from RobPlays on YouTube. Check out his channel and make sure you subscribe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode, and just remember, tomorrow is just a dream away.